Okay, let's unpack this. Luck. It's something we all talk about, right?
It's totally
Finding a 20 on the sidewalk, good luck. Almost missing your train, bad luck. But, how often do we actually dig into what it really means?
hmm, not often.
You've told us you want to get a real understanding of these big topics sort of quickly without feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah, get the full picture.
And that's exactly what we're doing today with luck.
That's right. We're taking a deep dive. We've gathered some fascinating publicly available info,
Mm-hmm.
looking at luck through different lenses.
Like what?
Well, philosophy, psychology, even just how we use the word every day,
Mm.
and the really interesting cultural stuff, too.
Okay. Multiple perspectives.
Exactly. Hopefully it'll give you some real aha moments.
Yeah. Our mission here isn't just to shrug and say, oh, well, that was lucky. We want to go much further.
Deeper than that.
Understand the layers,
Yeah.
how it connects with chance, why we perceive it the way we do.
And that really intriguing question,
Mm-hmm.
can we actually influence it? Can we make our own luck?
Ooh, I like that. So, where do we start?
So let's kick things off with philosophy. What's so interesting here is how luck really throws a curveball into
Mm.
some of our most basic ideas. Control, responsibility.
Justice, even.
Exactly. It challenges our sense of what's fair and just.
Tell me more. This sounds like it could get interesting fast.
It does. Consider moral luck.
Okay.
This is the idea that we often judge people based on the results of their actions.
Mm-hmm.
Even when those results are largely outside of their control, it sort of challenges that principle that we should only be judged for things we can control.
Okay, I think I see what you mean. So someone could have like the best intentions,
Right.
but if things go wrong due to something totally random, we might still blame them more.
Precisely.
Yeah.
The philosopher Thomas Nagel, he explored this. He identified 4 types of moral luck.
4 types. Okay.
The first is resultant luck. Imagine 2 drivers,
Yeah.
both acting carelessly, right?
Okay.
One uh, has their brakes fail just as a child runs out,
Yeah.
hits the child.
Uh.
The other drives home, nothing happens. We'd likely judge the first driver much more harshly, wouldn't we?
Yeah, definitely. Even though the carelessness was the same initially.
Exactly. Or think about 2 attempted robberies. One succeeds just because, say, the victim happened to have more cash that day.
Right.
The other fails. The moral judgment, the condemnation, tends to be much stronger for the one that succeeded.
Even if the intent and effort were identical. Wow, that's a bit unsettling.
It is.
It feels like we're holding people responsible for stuff that isn't really their fault. What's the next type?
That's circumstantial luck. This is about the situations, the circumstances we find ourselves in.
Okay.
Think about someone born in, say, Nazi Germany in the 1930s versus Argentina at the same time.
Very different environments.
Huge difference. Their moral path, the pressures they face, it's massively shaped by circumstances they didn't choose, yet their moral development is judged.
That really makes you think about how much our surroundings influence us morally and, well, in every way.
Absolutely. Then there's constitutive luck.
Constitutive.
Yeah, this one's quite personal. It's about the kind of person you are, your innate character traits, your tendencies.
Like being naturally patient or quick-tempered.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Generous or selfish. These traits are heavily influenced by genetics, upbringing, things you didn't choose.
Right.
Yet, we often praise or blame people for these very characteristics,
Yeah.
calling someone cowardly, for instance.
But maybe they couldn't help it. So we're almost blaming people for their fundamental makeup. That doesn't seem quite right either.
It raises difficult questions. And the last one,
Yeah.
the last is causal luck. This gets right into the free will debate.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it asks, to what extent are our actions truly our own if they're just the result of a long chain of prior events we didn't control?
If everything is cause and effect, where's my choice?
Exactly. It has big implications for moral responsibility in general.
That's definitely a mind-bending thought. So philosophy shows us luck isn't just like winning the lottery.
Not at all.
It really gets to the heart of how we understand ourselves, our responsibilities. Fairness.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop there. Philosophers also talk about epistemic luck.
Epistemic. Like knowledge.
Exactly. It's when you end up believing something true, but accidentally.
How?
Maybe a lucky guess. Or your reasoning is totally flawed, but somehow you stumble onto the right answer.
Oh, like guessing on a multiple choice test and getting it right?
Exactly like that. You have a true belief, but it's not really based on sound reasoning or knowledge. It's just luck.
Huh. Okay, so philosophy is giving us a lot to chew on. What about when we think about justice. How does luck fit into that?
Right. This leads to ideas around justice and responsibility, specifically something called luck egalitarianism.
Luck egalitarianism.
Yeah. Philosophers here often distinguish between brute luck and option luck.
Brute versus option.
Brute luck is stuff that happens to you. Things you didn't choose, couldn't avoid, like inheriting a genetic condition or being hit by lightning, an accident.
Things totally out of your control.
Exactly. And many luck egalitarians argue that a just society should try to, neutralize the disadvantages caused by bad brute luck.
That makes sense. It connects with the idea of social safety nets, things like that, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Option luck, though, is different.
Okay.
It's about the outcomes of deliberate choices, gambles we take, knowing the risks.
Like investing in a risky stock. Or, well, gambling.
Precisely. If those choices don't pay off, the inequalities that result are often seen as less problematic from a justice perspective. Because, well, you chose to take the risk.
So it's the difference between being unexpectedly hit by something versus willingly rolling the dice.
That's a great way to put it. And philosophers even try to define luck itself.
Define it. How?
Well, there are thin definitions.
Yeah.
Luck is just the absence of responsibility or desert. Doesn't say much more. Then thick definitions try to give criteria, like a lack of control or choice being central to luck. And winning the lottery, that pure chance event, often comes up as a key example when they discuss justice and luck.
So the big takeaway from philosophy, it's that luck is way more than just random chance.
Much more.
It really forces us to grapple with some huge questions. Our own agency, right and wrong, fairness.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, doesn't it, how often we judge ourselves or others based on things that were ultimately out of our hands.
That's a powerful thought. Okay.
Absolutely.
Oh.
It challenges us to be critical about our judgments.
Yeah.
Now, shall we switch gears? Look at psychology.
Yes, please. I'm curious if psychology brings it down to a more personal level.
Well, psychology often looks at luck through attribution theory.
Attribution, like attributing causes.
Exactly. How do we explain events? Is it internal, my skill, my effort, or external luck, task difficulty?
Right.
And when we attribute something to luck, it's usually seen as external, unstable, it changes,
Yeah.
and uncontrollable.
That definitely fits how we usually think about it. Luck feels like something that happens to you.
Right. But psychological research shows our everyday understanding is actually more nuanced than just that. Woolley and Wiseman, for instance, found 3 common ways people conceptualize luck.
Okay, 3 ways.
First, some see it as a kind of supernatural force, an external power you can influence
Yeah.
through rituals, lucky charms, certain behaviors.
Yeah, like carrying a rabbit's foot or knocking on wood, that kind of
That exactly. The second way is as an explanation for unexpected events.
Okay.
When something improbable happens, especially if it's emotionally significant, good or bad, we label it luck. It helps us make sense of it.
Like finding that $20 bill we mentioned. It's unexpected, feels good, so
Yeah.
good luck.
Precisely. And the third is as a personal trait.
You mean
Yeah.
some people are just lucky?
That's the idea, that some individuals are inherently lucky people. I bet you know people who seem to stumble from one good break to another.
Oh, definitely. That idea really resonates.
And psychologists have even developed scales to measure these beliefs. Dark and Friedman looked at whether people see luck as, like, a stable trait they possess versus just random chance. Others suggest beliefs about supernatural luck charms and rituals might be separate from believing you personally are lucky.
So someone could believe in lucky charms, but not necessarily think of themselves as a lucky person overall. That's interesting.
It is, isn't it? And Chip Demon had a really neat definition.
Yeah.
Luck is probability taken personally.
Oh, I like that. Probability taken personally. It captures that subjective feeling.
It really does. And Pritchard and Smith defined it as basically a significant outcome that's unlikely something that wouldn't happen in most similar possible worlds.
Okay, so psychology shows luck isn't just stats. It serves real functions for us.
Exactly. Cognitive functions, emotional functions, explaining things, coping with uncertainty, maybe even feeling a bit of control.
And reflecting our own personal beliefs about how things work.
Definitely. Does this perspective resonate with how you've thought about luck before?
It really does. Especially the idea that our beliefs shape how we interpret random events. Okay, so philosophy gives us the big questions, psychology, the personal processing.
Yeah.
What about just, well, the dictionary, everyday language?
Right, that connects these ideas. If you look up luck in the OED, or Merriam-Webster,
What do they say?
you get definitions like chance occurrence, favorable or unfavorable, or a force bringing fortune or adversity.
A force. Interesting.
Yeah, or success through chance rather than one's own actions. It pulls together randomness, outcomes, and that lack of direct control.
Makes sense.
And it's interesting. Usually, when we just say luck, we often mean good luck, implicitly.
Oh, yeah.
Think about it. Bad luck, good luck, best of luck, try your luck. The default seems positive unless we specify otherwise.
Huh. Yeah, you don't often hear someone say, oh, I had some luck and my car broke down.
Exactly. So our language reinforces those core ideas and maybe that underlying positive feeling about luck.
Okay, now let's get into what I find really fascinating, the cultural stuff. How different places see luck. You often share how much you enjoy learning about different cultural perspectives.
Me too. And globally, you find these incredibly intricate systems. Beliefs, symbols, rituals, all around luck.
Like stories passed down.
Kind of. Folk beliefs, helping people navigate uncertainty, share values, and often there's that desire for some control when things feel unpredictable.
So cultures develop ways to engage with luck, making the world feel a bit less chaotic.
Precisely. And symbolism is huge. Objects, gestures, colors, numbers, representing luck, fortune, protection.
Like the four-leaf clover.
Yeah, that's a classic Western one. Faith, hope, love, luck. Or the horseshoe, common in Europe and elsewhere, for warding off evil.
Those are pretty well known. What about some others?
Well, acorns in Norse traditions, dream catchers in Native American cultures,
Right.
the Japanese maneki neko, that beckoning cat, for good fortune attracting customers.
Oh, I've seen those.
And the Nazar, that blue eye amulet from the Middle East and Mediterranean, wards off the evil eye.
It's amazing how these symbols travel.
It really is. And animals too. Pigs in China and Germany. Elephants in Asia for wisdom and luck. Ladybugs in Europe.
Wow, the world is full of these little lucky charms if you know where to look.
Exactly. And then you get into colors and numbers. Very specific sometimes.
Like in Chinese culture.
Especially, it's very elaborate. The number 8 sounds like prosper, so it's super lucky.
The Beijing Olympics.
Yeah.
8:08 at 8:08 p.m.
Exactly. Before sounds like death, so it's really unlucky. Many buildings skip the 4th floor.
That's intense. Wow, what about colors?
Red is the big one in China. Joy, prosperity, used for weddings, New Year.
Everywhere.
Yeah. Yellow is for royalty, gold for wealth, but white, that's for mourning, funerals. Very different from some Western views, right?
Totally different. It really shows how culturally specific it all is. Lucky here might be unlucky there.
Absolutely. And these beliefs drive rituals and practices.
Like what?
Think New Year's Eve foods, fish in some Asian cultures for abundance. Wedding colors red and gold in China. Dia de los Muertos altars in Mexico.
So these aren't just random superstitions, they're deep traditions.
Exactly. And then there are the active things. Students using lucky objects for exams. Touching a chimney sweep.
Right.
Giving red envelopes home ball for Lunar New Year. Carrying talismans like the Nazar.
It's fascinating how these practices stick around.
And even just saying good luck or crossing fingers.
Yeah.
Those are linguistic rituals, aren't they?
Yeah, we do them without thinking.
Anthropologists see these rituals as formal, traditional ways to reinforce beliefs, give a sense of agency.
So culturally, luck is this whole complex web. Beliefs, symbols, actions, helping us make sense of things.
Precisely. Fulfilling social psychological needs. Comfort, connection, especially when things feel random.
Okay, so we've hit philosophy, psychology, language, culture. Let's bring in the numbers. Math, statistics. What's their take?
Well, the mathematical view is pretty different from some of those others. Statistics frames luck not as a force, but as our subjective interpretation of outcomes driven by probability and randomness.
So, good luck is just a favorable random outcome. Bad luck, an unfavorable one.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
Game's a chance,
Yeah.
pure probability, no actual luck force involved.
Okay.
And a key idea is the law of truly large numbers.
Law of truly large numbers.
Yeah, it says basically with enough opportunities, enough people, even really low probability events become likely to happen to someone eventually, just by chance.
It's like winning the lottery. Feels incredibly lucky to the winner.
Right,
But with millions playing, it's statistically bound to happen.
precisely. And stats can also explain things we often call luck, like streaks.
Streaks, like getting heads 5 times in a row.
Exactly. In random sequences, you expect clusters like that. It doesn't mean the coin is suddenly biased or you're on a lucky streak.
It's just random clumping.
Right. Same with unusual events. Low probability, sure, but statistically likely to occur somewhere, sometime. And regression to the mean.
Ah, regression to the mean.
If you have a period of amazing performance, way above average, statistically, you're likely to perform closer to your average next.
Not because your luck ran out.
But because extreme results are less likely to keep happening, things tend to revert towards the average.
Okay, so statistics offers a much colder, maybe, explanation. But why do we humans see these patterns? Why attribute them to luck?
That's where cognitive biases come in. Systematic errors in our thinking, especially about probability.
Biases. Like what?
Oh, there are lots that affect how we see luck. The gambler's fallacy, for one.
What's that?
Believing that if something hasn't happened recently, it's due. Like if a roulette wheel hits black 10 times, thinking red must be next.
Right, even though each spin is independent.
Exactly. Then there's confirmation bias.
Seeking out evidence for what we already believe.
You got it. If you think you're on a lucky streak, you remember the wins, forget the losses.
Hmm.
The illusion of control is huge, too. Overestimating our ability to influence random events.
Like wearing lucky socks for the big game.
Or blowing on dice. It makes us feel more in control, but statistically, no.
So our brains are trying to find control, find patterns, even when it's just random.
Exactly. There's hindsight bias, I knew it all along, after something happens. Outcome bias, judging a decision purely by the result, not the quality of the decision itself.
So a risky bet that pays off seems like a genius move in hindsight.
Right. The clustering illusion, seeing meaningful patterns in random data like those hot streaks. Recency bias, giving too much weight to recent events. Optimism bias, thinking good things are more likely to happen to us than they statistically are.
Like thinking I'm going to win the lottery.
Yeah. If you believe you have a lucky number, you'll remember the times it came up, not all the times it didn't.
Wow. That's a long list of ways our brains can trick us about luck and chance.
It really shows how we're wired to seek patterns, seek causes. We easily misinterpret randomness and hold on to these strong beliefs about luck.
So these biases explain why we see streaks as meaningful, why we feel control. Let's explore that a bit more, the psychology of streaks and control.
Absolutely. So statistically, streaks are normal in random data. But that clustering illusion makes us think they're significant.
More than just chance.
Right. And confirmation bias locks it in. We notice the streaks that fit our narrative. It's funny, too, how we predict streak continuation. Sometimes we think a good run will continue.
Like positive recency.
Yeah. Other times we fall for the gambler's fallacy and think it has to end.
Negative recency.
But in truly random events, the past doesn't predict the future, right? Every coin flip is fresh.
Right. So what about the hot hand in sports? That feels real.
The hot hand. That belief that if a player makes a few shots, they're genuinely more likely to make the next one.
Yeah.
The original big study back in '85 by Gilovich, Vallone, and Tversky, it famously argued it was mostly a fallacy.
Like a cognitive illusion.
Yeah, basically due to us misperceiving random sequences and confirmation bias, people thought they saw streaks, but statistically the shots were independent. That was the standard view for a long time.
I remember hearing that, but has that changed?
Well, it's become more complex. More recent research has challenged that original study.
How so?
Some pointed out potential methodological flaws, like maybe the way they defined a shot attempt or looked for streaks, could have masked a small effect.
Interesting.
And newer studies, with better data or different analyses, have found some evidence for a small, statistically significant hot hand effect in certain contexts.
Like what?
Maybe in NBA free throws,
Yeah.
or analyzing specific players known for streaky shooting, or even in controlled experiments like three-point contests.
So maybe there's a tiny bit of truth to it.
It seems possible. The debate is definitely ongoing. If a hot hand effect exists, it's likely much smaller and more specific than our perception of it.
So our belief in the hot hand is probably stronger than the reality.
Very likely. Random chance guarantees streaks happen. Our biases make us inflate their meaning.
Okay. What about that illusion of control, especially in gambling?
Oh, it's incredibly powerful there. People develop rituals, strategies, thinking they can influence purely random outcomes.
Like choosing your own lottery numbers instead of a quick pick.
Exactly. Or rolling dice a certain way. These skill cues make you feel involved, enhancing the illusion of control.
Even though it makes no difference statistically.
Right. And confirmation bias locks it in. You perform your ritual, you win once, aha. See, it worked. You forget all the times it didn't.
So our minds cling to that feeling of influence.
They do. And that perceived control, even if illusory, can really mess with decision-making.
Wow.
Betting more when you think you're hot, Chasing losses because you feel your luck has to turn, it's not a reliable guide when chance is in charge.
Okay, so statistically, psychologically, our view of luck can be pretty skewed.
Mhm.
But what about that idea of making your own luck? That sounds more hopeful.
It is. And there's actually research suggesting we can influence our opportunities and how we respond, even if we can't control pure chance.
Really?
Yeah. Psychologist Dr. Richard Wiseman's work in his book, The Luck Factor, is key here.
Oh, I've heard of that book. What did he find?
He argued that what we call luck is often more about our thoughts and behaviors, not magic. He found 4 main principles that seem to separate lucky from unlucky people.
Okay, 4 principles. What's first?
Maximizing chance opportunities. Lucky people tend to be more extroverted. They build bigger social networks. He calls them networks of luck.
Ah, more connections, more possibilities.
Exactly. They're also more relaxed, more observant, so they actually notice unexpected opportunities more often. And they're open to new experiences.
So just being out there, open and engaged, creates more potential for lucky breaks.
That seems to be the idea. The second principle is listening to lucky hunches.
Trusting your gut.
Pretty much. Lucky people tend to pay attention to their intuition, those gut feelings, when making decisions. Wiseman even suggested things like meditation might help strengthen that intuitive sense.
Interesting, like tuning into subconscious processing. What's number 3?
Expecting good fortune. Lucky people are generally more optimistic.
They expect things to work out.
Yes. And this can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. It motivates them to try harder, persist longer, interact positively with others. They set higher goals.
So a positive mindset can actually lead to better results. That makes sense. And the last one,
The fourth is turning bad luck into good.
resilience.
Exactly. Lucky people don't dwell on the negative. They reframe setbacks, look for the silver lining, learn from mistakes. They bounce back.
So it's about your response to the inevitable rough patches.
Right. And you can see how these principles connect to broader psychological ideas.
Yeah.
Optimism, openness, persistence, resilience, networking.
It gives us a much more active role than just waiting for luck to strike.
Absolutely. And this ties nicely into the concept of serendipity.
Happy accidents, fortunate discoveries.
Yeah. The initial event might be chance, but recognizing it, capitalizing on it, that takes a certain mindset.
Like being prepared to see the opportunity.
Exactly. Cultivating curiosity, building diverse relationships, being willing to take action, mindfulness, embracing uncertainty. These things create a fertile ground for serendipity.
You're sort of increasing your surface area for luck.
That's a good way to put it. And this idea of agency, of focusing on what we can do, shows up in philosophy too.
Especially Stoicism.
The Stoics,
Yeah.
like Epictetus, Seneca.
Right. They really emphasize the dichotomy of control. Focus on what's in your control, your thoughts, judgments, responses, not external events like fortune or misfortune.
Which they saw as indifferent, right?
Exactly. Seneca famously said, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity."
That's a great quote. Preparation meeting opportunity.
It perfectly captures it. Being ready, taking action. That's where you make luck. Epictetus stressed self-improvement, viewing difficulties not as bad luck, but as chances to practice virtue.
So focus on your character, your response.
Yes. So making luck isn't about controlling randomness. It's about optimizing your preparedness, your mindset, your response to the chance that life throws at you.
Wow. This has been such a comprehensive look at something we usually just brush off. So, to wrap things up, what are the key takeaways? Well, I think first, luck is definitely multifaceted, isn't it? It's not just one simple thing.
No, definitely not.
Our perception is riddled with biases. Culture gives us frameworks to cope. Philosophy challenges our core assumptions. And maybe most importantly, while chance is real, we do have agency. We can influence opportunities and how we respond. Hopefully there were some aha moments in there.
Absolutely. I'm definitely seeing luck differently now, especially that tension between the cold, hard statistics and our very human, subjective experience of it.
And that's a crucial point. The universe might be random, but our mindsets, our actions, they really do shape our path and the opportunities we find.
So as a final thought for everyone listening, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Where might you be giving too much credit to external luck? And where could focusing on your own preparation, your own agency, actually lead to more of those seemingly lucky moments?
That's a great point to ponder. Maybe consider how adopting some of these mindsets, openness, resilience, preparation, could cultivate more luck in your own life.
Something to think about.
Definitely. And if this sparked more questions, well, we're always ready for another deep dive.